Chelsea intensified Joao Pedro talks, reveals Fabrizio. Chelsea are intensifying talks to sign Joao Pedro from Brighton, Fabrizio Romano has reported on Sunday morning. Hello everyone, my name is Jack. I'm here to deliver every update on football news. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section. The Blues entered the race for the Brazilian star in recent days after seeing Newcastle have 2 offers rejected by Brighton. Romano revealed on Saturday that Chelsea were having conversations over the attacker. And the Italian transfer journalist now says that the talks are intensifying. Chelsea have all but completed the €64 million signing of Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund and are now working on bringing in another offensive player. What did Romano say? Understand Chelsea have now intensified talks to advance on Joao Pedro deal. Romano said on X, Chelsea are focused on Joao deal with Brighton. After signing Jamie Gittens with medical yesterday, Newcastle had 2 proposals rejected by Brighton, and Chelsea now pushing. If Joao Pedro arrives at Stamford Bridge, he will be the replacement for Christopher Nkuku, with the Frenchman transfer listed and expected to leave this summer. Joao Pedro is expected to leave his club after a training ground altercation with Jan-Paul van Heck at the end of the season. Newcastle United have been pushing to sign the 23-year-old, but have struggled to come to an agreement with Brighton. Joao Pedro was signed for €34 million from Watford, but after scoring 30 times in 70 appearances for Brighton, his estimated transfer value (ETV) has risen to €61 million. As mentioned above, Chelsea viewed Joao Pedro as a direct replacement for France international Nkuku was signed in a blockbuster €60 million deal from RB Leipzig in 2023. But after spending much of his first season out injured, he struggled to make an impact last term. Strong performances in the Conference League were insufficient to see him gain regular Premier League minutes, and it now appears he is on his way out. Manchester United have been tipped to make a move for Nkuku, but this depends on a move for Brentford's Bryan Mbeumo collapsing. Chelsea transfer news. Joao Pedro talks open as Christopher Nkuku replacement confirmed. Chelsea are actively seeking to replace Christopher Nkuku in Enzo Maresca's squad. With the West London club opening talks with Brighton attacker Joao Pedro, The Athletic reports that the Blues have entered direct competition for the Brazilian, who fell out of favor with the Seagulls after a training ground altercation with Jan-Paul van Heck at the end of the season. Newcastle United have been pushing to sign the 23-year-old, but have yet to make a bid. Despite previous reports that they had seen an offer worth €58.5 million rejected. Now, Chelsea have entered the race. From Watford, Joao Pedro scored 30 games in Brighton, increasing his ETV to €61 million. With the Fabian Hurstler side under no pressure to sell, given the versatile attacker is under contract until 2028, there is every chance they will hold out for an even higher figure. Fabrizio Romano previously suggested that Chelsea could be about to become active in the case of Joao Pedro. Speaking on his YouTube channel, he said, Newcastle are pushing for Joao Pedro. That's true. But let's not forget the interest from Chelsea. Joao Pedro remains a player of interest at Chelsea. So Newcastle are still actively working on the deal, but Chelsea are still having conversations. Joao Pedro is one of the players on their shortlist, and they still like the player, while Newcastle are trying to anticipate other clubs and get the green light from Brighton. At the moment, there's no club-to-club agreement. Who will make way? Chelsea, meanwhile, view Joao Pedro as a direct replacement for Nkuku, according to BBC Sports Nizar Consent. France international Nkuku was signed in a blockbuster €60 million deal from RB Leipzig in 2023. But after spending much of his first season out injured, he struggled to make an impact last term. Strong performances in the Conference League were insufficient to see him gain regular Premier League minutes, and it now appears he is on his way out. Manchester United have been tipped to make a move for Nkuku, but this depends on a move for Brentford's Bryan Mbeumo collapsing. Newcastle and Chelsea compete for Brighton's versatile forward in summer 2025 transfer window. The transfer market is starting to turn as Brighton and Hove Albion starman Joao Pedro is being asked for by several clubs. Significant developments have emerged on Pedro's transfer talks, as Chelsea and Newcastle are battling it out for the 23-year-old forward. With Newcastle's £50 million bid recently rejected and Chelsea entering the race, the Blues could sweep the Brazilian from the Magpies. Moreover, given the recruitment spree Chelsea has been on since the takeover, Eddie Howe and his side might have to empty more pockets than they want to for Pedro. Newcastle United push for Joao Pedro. The Magpies recently submitted a £50 million bid for the Brazilian forward, which was promptly rejected by Brighton, holding their stance on £60 million. Brighton might be open to head offers from other clubs if Newcastle fails to submit a bid. Per the reports, Pedro is open to the move and has even expressed willingness to play as a right winger at Newcastle. However, Chelsea, known for spending big money, could make things tougher for Newcastle United. Chelsea enters race for Joao Pedro's signature. Chelsea has joined forces with Brighton to discuss a potential deal for the forward, which is not entirely new as they have been monitoring him since 2022. Pedro's signature could be a major summer transfer battle. Newcastle United seeks finalization, while Chelsea aims to disrupt. Brighton holds the key to outcome. Chelsea identifies several other players as possible recruits in case the Pedro deal fails. On the other hand, the Magpies have shown keen interest in Pedro as they look to strengthen their flanks. Pedro, at just 23, combines technical skill, physicality, and versatility, making him an attractive prospect for top clubs. Continuing to shine through the past few seasons, the Brazilian is now destined for Champions League football. Joao Pedro chooses Chelsea over Newcastle, a London dream in the making. Brighton and Hove Albion's Brazilian star Joao Pedro is emerging as one of the most wanted attackers in the Premier League this summer. But amid heavy interest from multiple top clubs, the 23-year-old forward has a clear personal preference. Chelsea Football Club, despite a serious push from Newcastle United, who see Pedro as a long-term replacement for Callum Wilson, sources close to the player reveal he is leaning decisively toward Chelsea, both for footballing reasons and personal lifestyle goals. London calling. Joe's personal preference. Joao Pedro's dream to live in London has been one of the strongest pull factors behind his preference for Chelsea. His Brazilian teammate and Brighton defender Igor Joao recently confirmed in an interview that Pedro has long dreamed of a move to the capital. "He always told me that he really wants to live in London," Joao said, "so I think he will prioritize what comes from there first." That desire has become even stronger after Pedro enjoyed trips to London throughout the season, and he now sees Chelsea as the club best positioned to match his ambitions on and off the pitch. Why Chelsea? Chelsea's interest in Joao Pedro is not new. The Blues have long admired the Brazilian's flair, intelligence, and positional flexibility. New manager Enzo Maresca has reportedly greenlit the move, seeing Pedro as a forward capable of playing across the front line or as a creative second striker behind a more physical No. 9. Here's what makes Chelsea a perfect fit for Pedro. 1. Champions League ambition. Chelsea's resurgence under Maresca includes a top-4 finish last season, giving them a UCL platform Pedro craves. 2. Project Youth. Pedro would join a team full of dynamic young players, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, Noni Madwek, and more, where he'd have room to grow without being thrown under immediate pressure. 3. Tactical fit. Maresca favors a possession-based system with technical attackers who can interchange roles. Pedro fits this perfectly. 4. Lifestyle. Chelsea's location in West London is a major plus for Pedro, who has told friends he wants to raise a family in the capital. He's told friends he would choose Chelsea over any other English club. The Newcastle dilemma. Newcastle United is pursuing Joao Pedro, admired by manager Eddie Howe. However, uncertainty about securing him grows due to recent developments. Issues with Newcastle's bid. 1. Not in London, a lifestyle Pedro clearly. 2. Tactical uncertainty. Pedro has concerns about being used in a deeper role, or as a winger in a system that doesn't prioritize possession. 3. Personal preference. Despite the money and project, Pedro wants Chelsea. Chelsea are now leading the race, leaving Newcastle reevaluating their The financial tug of Brighton are playing hardball. They rejected a £50 million bid from Chelsea earlier this month, and the Times reports they valued Pedro at £60 million after his breakout 202-425 season, 15 goals and 7 assists in all competitions. Chelsea's position, negotiating hard, with confidence that Pedro wants them. Brighton stands, open to selling, but only for the right price. Newcastle's mood, frustrated, and now shifting attention to other targets like Hugo Ekitike and Jonathan David. What's next? Chelsea are expected to return with an improved bid in the coming days. Pedro's camp is reportedly urging Brighton to respect his desire and facilitate the move. According to a senior insider at Stamford Bridge, "We know Joao is keen. We've spoken. The priority now is aligning numbers with Brighton and securing the deal before pre-season starts." Chelsea have cleared wages and squad space following the exits of Armando Broja and Hakim Ziyech, freeing up space for Pedro to enter and take on a major role. Final word. A player who knows what he wants. Joao Pedro isn't just chasing football and glory, he's making a life decision. With ambition, comfort, and the ideal footballing environment all aligning at Chelsea, the decision seems almost natural. Unless Newcastle pull off a miracle in the coming week, Joao Pedro will almost certainly be wearing blue at Stamford Bridge next season, marking another coup in Chelsea's aggressive rebuilding project. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.